swords. Back. 4. 2 black swords. And then the root blades, Stormbringer and Mournblade, were gone from where they had hung so long. Stormbringer had settled into Elric's right hand. Mournblade remained with Sir Kuj. The 2 men stood on opposite sides of the pulsing cavern, regarded first each other, and then the swords they held. The swords were sinking, the fears were faint, Elric lifted a huge blade easily and turned it this way and that, admiring its alien beauty. Stormbringer, he said, not a blade. It was suddenly as if he had been born again, that this ruined sword was born with him, as if they had never been separated. Stormbringer. And the sword turned swiftly and settled even more smoothly into his grasp. Stormbringer! Yelled Eric, and he leapt at his cousin. Stormbringer! And he was full of fear, so full of fear, and the fear brought a wild friendly fight, a demonic need to fight and kill his cousin, to sink the blade deep into Erkun's heart, to take vengeance, to spill blood, to send a soul to hell.
Louis.
And now Prince Erkun's cry could be heard above the
Stop it.
swords, the drumming of the pulse of the cavern. Mournblade. Mournblade came up to meet Stormbringer's blow, and turned that blow and thrust back at Elric, who swayed aside. Stormbringer ran down the side street, Mournblade back. And Stormbringer's next thrust was met again, and the next thrust was met, and the next. It was completely matched against so many blades, so many threats of their own. The crying of the metal upon metal turned into a wild metallic song, which the sword sang. A joyful song, as if they were glad at last to be back together, though they battled each other. Delrin, having saw his cousin Lucio before, sent her an occasional flash of his dark, wild face. Elric's attention was given entirely to the 2 black swords. It was seen that the swords fought with the life of one of these swordsmen was surprise. Perhaps the lives of both, could tell. The rivalry between Elric and Erkun was nothing compared to the brotherly rivalry between the swords, who seemed full of pleasure and a chance to engage again after many millennia. And this observation as he fought for his soul as well as his life, gave Elric pause to consider his hatred of Erkun. Kill Erkun he would, but not at the will of another power, not to give spawn to these alien swords. Mournblade's pointed dart into his eyes, and Stormbringer rose as he fled the thrust once more. Elric no longer fought his husband. He fought the will of the 2 black swords. Stormbringer had dashed for Erkun's momentarily undefended throat. Elric clung to his sword and dragged him back, sparing his cousin's life. Stormbringer whined almost emotionally, like a dog stopped with biting an intruder. Elric spoke to him and teeth. I not be your puppet, Blade. United effort upon a proper understanding. The sword seemed to hesitate, to drop its guard, and Elric's heart could defend itself against the whirling attack of Mournblade. It turned and seemed to sense its advantage. Elric felt fresh energy pour on his right arm and into his body. This was what the sword could do. With it, he needed no help. Never needed no. In fact, triumph, at peace, and rule with pride. When he travelled, they could be alone and without fear. It was as if the sword reminded him of all these things, even as it returned Mournblade's attack. And what must the sword have in return? Elric. The sword told him without words that he sought. Stormbringer needed to fight. That was its reason for existence. Stormbringer needed to kill, for that was its source of energy, the lives and the souls of men. Demons, even gods. And Elric hesitated, even as his cousin gave a huge cackling yell and dashed at him so that Mournblade glanced off his helm, and he was flung backwards and down and saw Erkun, gripping his held the black sword in both hands to plunge the rune blade into Elric's body. Resist that thing. For his soul to be drawn into Prince Erku's strength. But he rolled aside very quickly and got to one knee and turned and lifted Stormbringer with one gauntleted hand upon the blade and the other upon the hilt to take the whip blow Prince Erku brought upon it. The black swords shrieked to him. They shifted. Black radiance poured from blood like war from a man pierced by many arrows. Elric was driven, still on his knees, away from the radiance, gasping and sighing, peering here and there for sight of Erku, who disappeared. And Elric even stormed and spoke to him again. Elric did not wish to die by Morgoth, and the Elric released that second part, which the sword on. Let's not die, said Elric. But once slay him to make sport of him. Through the black radiance ran Erku, starving and snapping. Again, Stormbringer darted him. Again, Elric made the blade go back. Stormbringer ran off his hands. Elric's hand shall not be my master. And Stormbringer seemed to understand, quietly, and reconciled. But Elric, thinking that he never held the sword and that now made it we should disarm Erku, said Elric. We shall not kill him. Elric rose to his feet. Stormbringer moved towards where an eagle had raided. Waiting behind the thrust. Erku, who had been grinning in triumph, snarled and staggered back, and grinning again. Stormbringer fell. They made the moves that Elric wished to. Both Erku and Morgoth seemed certain by this time of events. Morgoth shouted astonishment to come to aid him. Elric and the sword his prop, his bow. Black mane soaking everything, dripping down the hilt of the sword. Blood was spilled. Took Stormbringer in both hands. Unearthly strength surged through him. The gigantic blow he dashed Stormbringer against Morblade, where Blade met him. The rune sword flew from Erku's grasp and sped across the pulse. Elric smiled. Swords whirled, in turn, into the close. Morblade fell against the wall of the pulsing cavern. For a moment, he was still. A groan then seemed to escape the defeated rune sword. A high-pitched shriek filled the pulsing cavern. Blackness flooded over the eerie pink light and extinguished it. When the light returned, Elric saw that a scabbard lay at his feet. The scabbard was black, with the same alien craftsmanship of the rune sword. Elric saw Erku. Prince was on his knees and was sobbing, his eyes darting about the pulsing caverns. Morblade, looking at Elric with explained. Morblade. Erku said hopelessly. He knew he was to die. Morblade had vanished from the pulsing cavern. The sword is gone, said Elric aloud. Erku tried to crawl towards the entrance of the room. Began to speak back. Do not slay me, Elric. Not with that threat. Or to anything which I will die in any other way. Elric said, "We are victims of a conspiracy. A game played by gods, demons, and sentient spirits. Elric took off his old scabbard and looked around for Oged's sword. That too was gone. Dropped the old scabbard and put the new one to his belt. He rested his left hand top of the storm room. We've not without sea. I wonder how long the desire which you ceased to be that house. The young man raised himself to his knees. And began to show his eyes. Now it's sun looking well. We shall see, he said. We must reiterate Sybil, the sorcerer's son. Said Hercule in a small, pitiful voice. What's this? Was it nothing but fog? I thought I would leave the village. Now it is past the time. The entrance opened for everyone alive. To anyone who cares to next what else can happen, and will let no one out of the power of the spell darkness. Managed to break that spell. You were giving too much for everything, said Elwood. He went to the entrance and peered through. Ragnar waited on the other side. The Red Archer had an anxious expression. Elwood said, "Warrior Priest of Freedom, it seems that my cousin had trapped you. The entrance will not part with us." Elwood tossed the door towards stuff in the door. Would not open up the tiny ratchet. It's join us, or else go back. Orders, share our fate. It's not much of a fate if I go back, said Ragnar. My chances are here. One, said Elwood. And thus the war with the chaos. My face. Exactly, said Elwood. I speak of Ariel. Ariel, eh? Well, he does not care for renegades to prove. What did he choose to do? Ragnar stepped forward. Elric stepped back. Through the opening came Ragnar's head. Followed by the rest of them. The entrance closed again immediately. Ragnar stood up and untangling the string of his robe and the scarves. I agree to share your fate, to gamble all on escaping this way. Saw him. The enemy is still alive. You are merciful indeed. Perhaps, or obstinate. Not slay him merely for his son's suit. Kill him by today. The lords of the higher worlds not as yet control the I see you have one of those black swords in your belt. Will that not hack away through the cavern? Said him. Nothing can harm the stuff that's pulsing. But I do not intend to draw this new sword of mine. Control. So, Ariel must be summoned. So, that is possible, said Elwood. You will doubtless destroy me, said Ragnar, looking to Elric and both the albino and the hands. Elric looked brave. We need to strike hard. It also tests himself. Elwood turned his back on Ragnar and he adjusted the knife. Sent it out through darkness through complicated mazes. Cried, Area, aid me, Area. That sense of something missing. Area. Something shifted in place of his mind. Area, he knew it was Area. Ragnar gave a horrified yell. Burns. This was Arian's true shape. On this plane, this could be a pond. Arian could not deceive those who looked upon him. Within the shade that disappeared, he was bringing ancient days of looking for the waters. On this small now, said Arian, before the others. I congratulate you. This pleasure hasn't I said. More than one reason, said Arian. Arian's face bore a little secret smile, but Alden realized that it would be one. If he had killed Ilfur, Cimmeria would never have woken again. What was this little trait? Arian turned a cold eye on Randall. He did his best to stare back at Chaos. Here's my friend, said Alden. I made a bargain. He aided me to find the Black Sword, and he'd take you back with me to our own plane. Here of an exile. That is his pleasure. He comes back with me, said Alden. And now he unhooked the scabbard holding a sword from his belt, and held the sword out before him. Or I do not take the sword with me. Failing that, we all three remain here for eternity. Nonsense, Alden. It's simple responsibility. I have considered it. That is my decision. Arian's smooth face had just a tinge of anger. You must take the sword. It's your destiny. So you say. But I now know that the sword may only be born by me. You cannot bear it, Arian, or you would. I or another mortal like you, take it from the cross and cattle. Is that not so? You are clever. Arian spoke with a sardonic admiration. You are a fitting servant of chaos. Everything. That trait of you go with you. He will be best born to tread warily. The lords of chaos have been known to bear malice. Rakir said hoarsely. So I infer. Arian ignored the archer. Another food is not after all. And if you wish to spare your so be it. Destiny contain a few extra threads in their design and script. Very well, said Alden. Take his place. Better. Right now, never please. The smile that was almost tender, Arian looked down on the silver hand of his throat after his change. Arian looked twice at the original silence. Oh, the shoulders, as if all the silence. And there was a word. There was a sound of the noise. There was a dreadful sense of it. Save that in one word, a black shade like snow, high for a low Blackbeard crossed the floor and seated himself carefully on the first step forward. The Dalvik remained where they were, staring into each other's eyes. Then Warwick laughed and slapped the scabbard's sword. Now you must fulfill your promises. Then I have a proposition to make. It is like a race. Said Rakir, leaning on one elbow and inspecting the evidence. So many bargains. Step back for a second. There was no spirit in it, as he said. It was done. He turned away and looked at the window. Like the cover, then returned to the boat. Together on the ship. staring into the face of someone. Face the one terrible moment and suspect kills. Then the island right over. She saw me. She stopped. What's then slips as you are. I was as much subject to sorcery as you. My mind was confused. Still, you are somehow so. There I defeated him. He does not doubt my power. No longer lost. So. She brushed hair on her face.
Oh, Harley.
It might not be mercy which moves me, said Elwood. It might maybe be a sense of fellowship as a group. Fellowship? Surely you cannot hear. We are both mortal. We are both victims of a game played between the lords of the higher worlds. Loyalty asks me to give you to my own time. That is what I see. Said, trust your crew not at all, Elder. Try you again. The Lord will drag me. No, said Elder. If he does not fear me, he fears the sword I now carry. That's all. No, said Elder. I am the master of the sword. I did it 12 days speaking out of headshot terror of solid. Together with that, left Elric the Silver Collar. Spirit of help celebrations are now living. Now almost all the ships in there are rapid. He was going to do so well with all its strength. Accepted by the populace. In the throne room, there was a ball. It was the most lavish ball any of the danced and civil, taking the full part of the activity. Only their minutes, learned to remain in the quiet corner of the business the veterans of dance with several Melnibonéan ladies. Made assignation before. He was a hero now. Though his eyes were often rooted. And later, when simply as they seemed I want aid of aid and clear. I can see it as possible. They can rule their own affairs. There were tears in her eyes. It will take King Stratford and make the Isle of Burton towns where Randall and his friends. Why spoil this now? As we have. As I thought about this, as we go, well, what he has to say. He said slowly. It's not one way. But I have no such desire. You must go by yourself. It's not possible. I am not in the middle. I love you. And I use. That we shall be married when we return. In a year. Elric was full of sorrow, but he knew that his decision was correct. He did not believe he would grow restless soon enough. And he grew restless, he might come to regard Cicero as an enemy. Then you must always have Empress when I return, he said. Then move. I know that the will not take such a help. Make them more perhaps. Then you must stay up. But Elric's gaze had travelled through the crowd in the throne room below. Stop when it reached the road. Seated by itself in the gallery of its legs. When he smiled, he said, Cicero was horrified. The only one who wanted the other. Now, here instead, all's well, and peace around his table. Back. Once you do that vision for this life. All I am is Elder. Listen to me. You are all doomed unless you repent now. You cannot by that. She stood up. She was weak. She was lost. I am sinning. He said. Destroy hope. Her voice softened as she stroked his hair. No, he said. I will learn something. I will discover it. We shall live long. We shall be happy soon. And now, I will have told you this. Turned his puzzle ear concerned the black sword. The third concerned silver. Of those three lives, that was killed. But it is only about things which concern us most profoundly that we lie clearly and with profound conviction. There was a pause called England, one of the humblest and friendliest of purple towns. Uncovered on the island is built mainly of the purple stone which gave the towns their name. There were red roofs on the island, sailed boats of all kinds in the harbour, as Elric and Ragnir the Red Archer in the shore of the building. Just a few sailors were beginning to make their way down to their ships. Wolfscraft was like a ship, they set way out on the They had used a small boat to cross the water between them. They had sailed it themselves. The crew, the ship had sailed well. Sir, I must see. Said Ragnir, son. He stretched and yawned at the bow of the quiver guns in the front. Rest and sleep. And he saw it. He looked bitter and relaxed, and a smile was missing. The other remarkable thing about his garden was the great black sword inside. Since he had got the sword, he had needed no drugs to sustain it. His bird and his carry what he got. I wish they'd seen it. I understand. We'll go back. A year ago, she had drawn out. I only fear is that I will be returned before the next village. I should like to come with you, said Ragnir. For I have travelled in those lands as good a guide as I want. And sworn you all might know that where it exists. I shall never be that again, said Ragnir. Then his eyes widened. Good ship. And down the wicked silver ship of Potter, he could tell her the land and sea. He saw it slowly sink. The other metals of friends at least, he said. But I fear their power wanes as the power of that living ends. For we could be of the Draco and sea, over the darkness. We share much in common with the spirits of air, earth, and water. Ragnir stared as the mast of the ship disappeared. I envy you those friends, Elric. You may trust them. Here looks the rune sword hanging on Elric's head. It was a cluster of cross. Fear not for me, Ragnir, for I am my own master. And I am master of this sword. The sword seemed to stir in the sunlight. It took from the hold of its grip and slapped Ragnir on the back. Lifted his straight red eyes at the sky. He said,
What is going on?
I returned to Melbourne. The Fortress of the Pearl. Elric had told his 3 lies to Cyprian, his betrothed. Second, his cousin Bilbo was regent of the Ruby Grove of Riverdale. But he had taken back near the Red Army. He set off into lands unknown, to seek knowledge which he believed was real, which he had never known. But did not reckon with the destiny already appointed that he should learn experience and certainty. Even before the ship sailed the sea. His soul, and all his idealism rejected. With a sword, serve the balance's ultimate purpose. And in Philcott, he experienced an affair of the heart, which he would never was learning lesson of very sword. But it was the desert city of Wallace, which began the adventure is there a man there for the brave to tell us the nightmare's soul? And the demons crush and chaos tale as well the sacred bride and Jesus give up his life. There was a lonely blind son. Turbans. Elm. Hereditary Emperor of Melniven. Last of a bloodline of 2,000 years old. Sometime conjurer of terrible disease. They led to death. Trials of birth usually sustained him. But it used the couple of days of his long journey from the southern edge of the Sinai Desert. Famous for its treasure, for its sufficiency. The albino prince stretched slowly, his bone and fingers together, limitless, the white jewel of the regular bones, the large Chelsea, as each then he let her hand fall. It was as if the actors stone besides, he had no great desire to suffer the his own father by the son, girl was sick. They unfortunately did. His father son his forest, however, his flames, crops. But that had been before the casting of certain cautious spells in the war with Britain and Melniboné more than 2,000 years ago. Roger Sun's empire had been lost on both sides, been engulfed by a vast mass of sand, which swept over it like a tide, leaving only the capital of no vision. The sun always stood there. She must be sustained. At any cost throughout eternity. Though she had no purpose or function, still her masters felt a heavy obligation to continue her existence by whichever means they found this. 14 times from the Sinai Desert to the fabulous Roger Sun. 14 times of the desert itself. Meanwhile, the city's chief obstetrics, some would say the chief industry, give up albeit in name only, and probably has been never had understand. Roger Sun was ruled by a constant scepter, which is the six. From the great part of the city. A certain other floating cannon within chose not to serve the sun of the city, or cynical on spec. What these, however, is not. Baroness of Quiet, dwelled in a simple yet beautiful villa in the city's southern street. Gave most of her attention to the notorious fight. Old, rash, his own palace was as unostentatious members of the company, while the seven was nameless and sense six, fatal clouds, able to sway any road one way or another. Here, in the sense of that, those profound inside, like all the many life in the city. It's not this. Interesting that the sun remained on the go. This and after the famous one had a storm. Right. The else is good. Yes. It comes. Many of that work was some confusion. He had taken the first ship out of Russia. The water traveled. When he had chosen willfully, trust an old drafter who was certain and showing faithful to him. As the albino and half guest, leading the flock from the enemy. He had considered crossing the mountains to make the Pala and a weaker place, but on consulting his own map, more reliable, he had discovered larger settlements. Starvation, he had found plenty of tried friends towards the place. During his wisdom, he had chosen to cross the desert and attack the drought. He had failed to find fabled Tunnel and it seemed the city which in the histories was almost as fabulous. Their chroniclers generally a passing interest in the rivals, but Elwin remembered that Father Sart's own sorcery was said to have contributed to her extinction as a threat to her heart and enemies. And this played to you, stood, uttered by Fofi and Darks, the sorcerer of human. Sad, the about the entire nation. Elric and Stokes' was explained in Roger Sark, creating myths and legends and rationalized the city's own life entirely as a result of emanating from the dragon. Elric reflected how his own obsession with myth had brought him to almost inevitable destruction. Relationism, Roland, turning the dull crimson eyes again towards the outdoors. I have shown that I share some of that sentence. Some 40 miles from his dead horse, Elric had been discovered by a boy in search of the druid precious items, lined up by the sandstorms relatively astonishing height of large size magnificent ranges. The origin of the desert. In that Elric would relish this one to derive the aesthetic of the kind of centuries. There are so many of the purpose harassed, massive, with gigantic proportions. There's no peculiar lightness of style, you can see the terracotta legs, which you can see in the back. The white of stucco, their rich beauty leaves, to very good very air. Their luscious gardens, both parks and complex terraces. Sunflowers, pitch, or stick, one purple, way white, all this water, was used to maintain the appearance of the sun. She had been her hero. This production that instead punishable by the severest of laws. Elric's own lodgings were in no way magnificent, consisting as they did of a trumpet small screen flagstone, plain earthen garden, and a basin containing a brownish water, which costed the flagstone. The only water on general sale, Quadrisar's single most expensive. Elric's water almost certainly been stolen. Such depths were discussed. Elric required rare herbs to sustain his deficiency, but their cost, and in innovation, would prove far beyond his present needs. It reduced the profits. The virtually no works, old as so was used to line the syndactic gardens. Exhausting and depressing. The boy who had found Elric in the desert and brought him to his room, staring at him as if at a curious insect or the room. The boy's name was Noah. I've never spoken of a name like His accent was so thick, it was sometimes impossible to understand what he said. Once more, that morning, he found himself found that he would never again see him on his side. Never sit with him in prayer. But he regret. It was of a distant regret. For his illness made him uncomfortable. And he told himself a single ray of sun. He recognized the voice, but could make out little more than a silhouette in the door. Now it seems all I want for the next week's party will be your thoughts, your remaining possessions. It was a guy, almost as depressed as Elvin, prospect replied. You are still a rarity, of course. Your features are those I've never seen before in that. I'm sorry to disappoint your expectations. Elvin rose weakly on his house. Then I had hoped you might be a visit. So much about perhaps member of the sickness. I wasted my mortals. You know well at all. It's a curio without things. When the eyes went towards a bottom, that's the best thing that's important. That's no treasure. Possessive, set to carry policy, fire, sword, that forward passing red silk, occasionally gave out purpose, and out. It's a mechanism. It's a spirit type of living device. The whole token striking round behind and making sky strongly. That's a fair description. Elvin was accused of founding a political conversation. Now I'm going to step forward, entirely illuminated by the ray of sunlight. Adapted to dwell among the tawny rocks and the Elric found the poison. Yet, the terror is almost certain thing. The property more than that. It's a rarity indeed. Rarities are prized by Quadrasat's lords and ladies. There are those amongst the six. Like such things. His honour, master of the extraordinaries, to go all over your hand, it's a ring. The lady talent and electric war instruments were in several bands on different. Let me take that severe scarab. Now discover a buyer. Then I'll see whether I've given you. Which would be self-made. And I's face became inexplicably innocent. Then will be strong enough to resist it. I shall be able to take permission on your first occasion. Eric felt affection for the boy, full of gathering strength before he spoke again. Expect how interested in the boy. So, naturally, and I grinned, could become a bodyguard to one of the 6 groups, or at least one of their schools. Your appearance will give me important. I've already told you what great rivals and plotters our master are. It is encouraging. to know that you can look forward to life and work. Build your profits. Try to stare directly into the eyes with the eyes. While the boy's head turned out in the sunlight. However, I understand that the herbs I described only this days there. Try to come to the best What if there was someone we all had at one time, Peter? You know something? Or what would you try? And I seated himself in the relatively good fading clouds. That's our conversation. I'm a worship, not a murder. Nor yet an oracle. Yet I don't place of knowledge. I am ignorant myself, not a fool. I share your opinion of myself, Mr. Knight. Should I take the sword of my I too, young and I have much unlike you, no person. You take me into the next round. I don't know now. Leave me alone. Everything they will surely be. It's brain shut. It's long as it left. It's good. Right now it's full. There. Painful, awkward movements held the ball with that deck. What the rapid spree of the How do you thick and steady? Blowing down. Decorative features and elaborate work. Some of the stillness designs something to back. Stormbringer is clearly now more glass. Almost as if regretting this suggested bargain. Now we're contemplating the sword, a true opening and something akin to sensuality. Some would say it possessed both mind and others would claim to be a demon in disguise. Some would even propose of the vestige of souls trapped within his wants, imagine a great dragon set to run inside. As he saw theirs. His own famous taste making certain pleasure in his work display. Have you never looked upon an artifact of chaos? Or was weapons? It's slave. Said it was when raised in flames. Its red eyes flickered like dying embers. I've heard this blade described as Arian's own battle sword, able to slice down the walls between the very realms. Others, as they die upon it, believe it to be a living creature. There is a theory that it is but one member of an entire race, living in our dimension, but capable, should it desire, of summoning 1,000,000 brothers. Can you hear it speaking, Master and I? Will that voice delight and charm the casual buyers in your market? And a sound came from the pale lips that was not a laugh, yet contained a desolate kind of humor. And I withdrew hastily into the sunlight again. He cleared his throat. You called the thing by a name. I called the sword Stormbringer. But the peoples of the young kingdoms sometimes have another name, both for myself and for the blade. The name is Soul Stealer. It has drunk many souls. I the name of the blade. Why are you not employed? I do not know the term. I do not know who further explanation. But an eye's gaze didn't leave the sword. Would it trick my soul once then? If I chose. To restore energy or the other passing around Johnson. Then doubtless I could find a speed and ride away before it, possibly to one. Now the black sword was two. It's no shame. Carmack to Giant, and I got his information necessary. This is like that story on Massachusetts walls. This is what those wrote about our isolation were said to be. I, the leaders, bore identical swords to the teachers at the school. I was there. But what did they say? Among the efforts into education, so benefits of the temporary classes. How I am not disposed, young knight, to maintain my own life at the expense of others who are not in my path. That is partly the reason why I find myself in this situation. You saved my life, child. Not killed me. Nor my strength. Thou art dangerous. It is coming. I spoke the tongue. Now, we've learned such things by discoveries. Recognize them. Where came you by that language? That illusion, the albino answered. Even in this surprise. They call it the Gotta Camp here in Rajasthan. But I suppose it is common enough to hear it in that so-called. Indeed, in that so-called truth. Elric was again intrigued by this minor turn of events. He reached towards the boy to reassure him. Emotion caused the knight to jerk up his head and make a noise in his throat. Clearly, he set no store by Elric's attempt to regain his confidence. His bare feet pattering down the long corridor, steps into the narrow street. Convinced that an eye was now gone for good, Elric knew a sudden pang of sadness. He regretted only one thing now. He would never be reunited with Cymril and return to Melniboné to keep his promise to wed. He understood that he had always been, and probably would always be, reluctant to ascend the Ruby Throne again. Yet he knew it was his duty to do so. Had he deliberately chosen this fate for himself, to avoid that responsibility? Elric knew that though his blood was tainted by his strange disease, it was still the blood of his ancestors, and it would not have been easy to deny his birthright or his destiny. He had earned life by his rule to turn Melniboné from the intricate empire into a reinvigorated nation capable of bringing peace and justice to the world, of presenting an example of enlightenment which others might use to their own advantage. For a chance to return to Cymril, he would more than willingly trade the Black Sword. Yet secretly, he had little hope.